Hi, welcome to Marin Women's Hall of Fame Conversation with Kit Cole. My name is Ruby Unger. I'm a Marin resident, and I'm very happy to be with Kit, who is one of this year's 1997 honorees of the Women's Hall of Fame in Marin County. I like to think of it as the County of Bounty, Kit. And I think you know something about that because you know a lot about the good things in life, and you know what to do in your life to make some security for yourself as you go through your family, your career. You are a financial advisor, the president of Cole Financial Group, co-founded New Horizons Savings and Loan, and you founded and are the chairman and CEO of San Rafael Thrift and Loan. Is that right?
Those are all right.
I feel like a prosecuting attorney here. And another thing. When I see a phrase like personal financial strategy, something happens inside of me and I just sort of blot out. Is that because I'm a woman, or I just don't have a lot of financial acumen, didn't take a lot of mathematics? What is that? What do you think about that?
I think that's a perfectly normal response, and I think, yes, a lot of it has to do with the gender. It's kind of our upbringing, and it has a lot to do, I think, both with what women are considered to be desirable and what women are, what people think about women who are in finance or who are financially astute. When you think about the role models of women who are financially astute, they're generally characterized as just terrible, raging, not very flattering. For example, Alexis Carrington.
Oh, from Dynasty.
Exactly.
I see.
And on the other hand,
hard, pushing, driving.
Yes.
Money grubbing.
Exactly. Conniving, scheming, and personally not very attractive other than physically.
Right.
And on the other hand, the women that are pictured to be attractive, typically through all the broadcast media, are women who are dependent, frail, vulnerable, not terribly intellectual, low on the human capital.
Low on human capital?
Exactly.
You mean women who are successful in business or in finance may not be such kind and nice people?
Well, I think it's not so, well, yes, that, but I think even yes, I think that, but I think even more importantly is that we have been acculturated to the fact that an attractive woman is a woman that's dependent, that lets the man take the lead, lets the man provide, and that the role of woman is to be passive, not get involved in these things. It was kind of attractive when we were going to school not to be good at math, and besides, nobody thought we were going to be good at math anyway, and they still don't. So that we have this perception that we feel like we probably should know these things, but we either don't know because we've never been taught, or don't know because it's never been shown to be fun and interesting, and we really don't want to get involved. But having said all this, at the same time, we have this anxiety and guilt that we really should know these things because we're the 20th century woman. But we don't, so we get completely clutched. And on top of that, on top of the guilt, there are, because we're not really sure about where we are financially, we also have angst about the fact that maybe we aren't maybe as personally well off as we should be. And we don't know how to take care of that.
The language of money truly is mystifying for me. And I'm wondering how you got to be so passionate about it. Were you good in math? Was that something you were drawn to? Is this a goal that you had as a child?
My goal growing up was my role model growing up was Ma and Pa Kettle. And I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I do. Oh, yes.
Ma and Pa Kettle.
Yes, they had a lot of kids.
They had a lot of kids. Lived on a farm.
Were fabricators, people who could make something out of nothing to make it work for themselves.
Yeah, it was a pretty simple life. And really, my passion growing up was that I would grow up and have a large family, and I'd just be a happy camper and live in my little, basically upmarket tract home.
So you didn't care about having a career? You weren't interested in working outside the home?
No, on the contrary. when I was in school, the women who were interested in math or business, the few of them that were interested in math or business, they were not very feminine looking, and in those days, feminine looking was valuable, and it was something to which you wanted to aspire, and I was one of those people that aspired to be feminine. So you didn't want to be in that group because it was not considered to be very feminine and appropriate, and you were kind of...
In the other group, in the math group.
In the math group, right? You were kind of considered to be the weird outcast, and I was kind of the cheerleader type, so I was going to go along with the pom-pom group and do pom-pom things. So while I did take math and I did take biology and I took all the college prep courses and I went on to school, I ended up with a degree in English. And I ended up with a degree in English because when I was going to school, really you went to school to find a husband. You really weren't
Really? Did you feel that that's what you were doing?
Absolutely. We went to the gene pool. Right? Yeah,
that's right. If you only have one lipstick to choose from, or two or three, you're stuck with that choice. And let's get a bunch of guys together who know how to drink beer.
Most of my friends were engaged in high school.
Really?
Yeah, and you went to college. You were considered to be successful if you got engaged your first year of college. That was the goal. Go to college and get a man. That was it. I don't think things have changed all that much either. We might have pushed the years out a little bit. But if we read the popular, just think of Cosmopolitan today, or most of the women's magazines, kind of the concept.
Kit, where did you grow up? Are you from the Bay Area?
I am. In fact, I was raised in East Oakland, and my parents were involved in founding Nolan State Park over there in the hills of East Oakland. And I went to school and got kicked out of a parochial school, Bishop O'Dowd, in high school, where I was a cheerleader until my last year.
Kicked out?
Yeah,
How can I let that go, Kit?
Yes, well, I was, in my senior year in high school, I got caught up into a religious movement, not a Catholic religious movement, but another one, much like the cults that you see. And I began to pass out religious literature in catechism class at school. So my parents were contacted and they said, we can't have this here. So I got kicked out my last semester of high school. And I went to another school, right.
Oh, that must
So that sort of leads you to the rest of my life, right?
Yes, a rebel, huh? I mean,
a rebel with small causes.
Yes, with definitely with a cause. That must have been really traumatic.
Well, it's interesting because at the time, as you do when you are caught up in religious movements, you think, well, that's okay because I'm right and they're wrong. And so it didn't actually bother me that much. And I got a chance to meet a whole bunch of new people anyway, so that was kind of fun. And I still go back to my reunions.
For
Bishop O'Dowd, yes.
The high school.
Who was actually, Marin Catholic were our rivalries at that time. So.
And you have sisters and brothers?
I have one sister and one brother, a younger brother and an older sister.
So let's jump ahead then. You wanted to be the Ma Kettle, and somehow, Kit, you've managed to be an extremely successful businesswoman. You're honored all over the place. You're a CEO. You're a chairman of the board. You started your own company 20 years ago, and you were one of 5 women in the entire country that one company decided to try in a pilot program to see if women could possibly be stockbrokers, if they had the brain power. What motivated you to do that? Why did you start in business?
Well, it was an accident, a complete accident. I headed that way because actually I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a second grade teacher. And when I got my first paycheck, it was like $600 a month. That was what my grocery bill was.
Oh, my.
So I figured that was just not going to make it because at that time I had 5 children that were under 5. And by this time, we skipped through all of this. I was divorced.
Right.
I had been married, divorced, and so I had to look around.
So you were a grown-up?
Well, I was 29.
Yeah.
If you consider that grown up.
Yes, well, yeah, with 5 children, I guess it's pretty grown up, isn't it? You were a responsible adult who was now experiencing a life change.
Yeah, and I had to I was looking for a place where I could earn more money, and actually what I did was I went to work for a president of a brokerage house as assistant, really basically as an administrative aide. And I had to take the brokerage license test so that I could get him financial information. It was a prerequisite. And then when I got in the brokerage house and I saw all those guys out there and they didn't know anything more than I did, I thought, well, wait a minute, what's this all about? I could do this.
And they're making big bucks.
And they're making lots of money. I thought, well, gee, that doesn't look too hard. And then I also, when I was, I had some money of my own, and when I got divorced, I went around looking for a person who could advise me, because remember, up to this point in time, I was just yet one more woman out of school with an English degree and no job and no background in finance, and I always relied upon some man in the family to take care of me, and never in my wildest dreams did I ever think of taking care of myself. That didn't appeal to me in the least. And it has its ups and downs, right?
Oh, definitely.
So I went to look for somebody in the financial community that could advise a woman in that position, a single woman with 5 children, how to manage her money.
There must be so many out there.
They had no idea.
Yeah.
They had no clue.
Yeah.
They had no idea what it meant to come with that acculturation. So after a couple of years of trying to find somebody just to communicate with me, to understand what I was feeling, the concern and the fear and the fear of being on my own, not investing right, I thought, gee,
you have this nest egg. You don't want to lose it.
Exactly.
You're going to take some amount of risk to invest it,
but
but
I
this
didn't.
is it.
Yeah,
for you, right?
I didn't have any idea what level of risk, and neither did I want to learn about it. I just was still in the mindset of, oh, let's give this to somebody else. But I figured at the end of 2 years, being unsuccessful in that
You were looking for 2 years?
I was looking for 2 years. I talked to people at all the brokerage houses, investment counselors, and so forth. I thought, gee, I must not be the only woman in this position. There must be other women who are feeling the same way. So maybe I can go make that pitch to a brokerage house that there ought to be a woman in the business, because think of all those women who are like me.
And this was in the 70s, right?
This was in the late 60s.
I want to ask you about New Horizons Savings and Loan. I was not in the county when that came into being. Can you explain what that is?
No. In the early, I guess maybe it was the late 70s. In the late 70s, Jerry Brown was in office, and affirmative action was kind of in its bloom around here. And there was a group in San Francisco called Western Women's Bank that was holding little coffees in Marin County trying to raise money. And I went to one of those with a friend of mine, and we sat down, and the promoters, which were women, of this bank didn't have any idea what they were talking about, but nonetheless people were giving them money to start a bank, and I thought, well, hey, we can do this. That seems simple.
And you say they didn't know what they were talking about?
They had no idea. They didn't really understand banking. They just liked the whole concept of a woman-owned bank. And because everybody else liked the concept of a woman-owned bank, and it didn't seem that you had to have any banking experience to be able to do this, I thought, well, this is a good idea. We'll just go to Department of Savings and Loans, actually, and we'll say there are no women-owned banks, and women are an underserved community. And so you have to give us a charter. Please give us a charter so that we can start a bank. And I had known, I was a stockbroker at the time, or I had been a stockbroker, and I had seen a lot of small banks that had been very profitable for customers, so I knew that it could be a very profitable investment. I had seen that already in other portfolios. So this friend and I said, well, we could do this too. So we decided to get a small group of women together. None of us knew anything about banking. And in fact, there was only one financial person, maybe only one business person in a whole lot of women. And we went to the Department of Savings and Loans, and we asked them to give us a charter, and they did. And they said, you just have to raise $2 million. So we said, fine, now how are we going to raise $2 million? We're certainly not going to go...
Bake sales.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So we got 20 women together, And the 20 of us, that's exactly what we did. We had coffees for the next 2 years. We had coffees and we had lunches, and I would go. By this time, I had learned something about how banks operate. And we raised money, $2,000 here, $5,000 there. We finally ended up raising the $2 million to start a bank. And it was 20 women that did that. We're just talking about 20 women, any of whom could have been in this room tonight. No prior experience, no business experience, mostly homemakers for the most part. And at that time, not very many men invested because they thought it was kind of a hokey idea and they couldn't imagine that it would ever be successful. So the reality was that 90% of the money that came in was owned by women. And in anywhere from maybe $500 to a maximum of $30,000. That was the most you could invest. And the long and the short of it is that the bank did get started. Not only did it get started, but it turned out to be one of Marin County's most successful banks. In fact, it was sold last year, and the women grew it from $2 million to $300 million, and it was sold to Luther Burbank, and the women made over 10 times their money on that investment. And subsequent to that time, over the years, I've actually had men come up to me and say, "Why didn't you make me invest in that?"
How funny.
It is funny. It was great.
You know, we're talking about gender roles here, and the Marin Women's Hall of Fame is for women. And I'm wondering if you had a woman somewhere in your life that you looked towards, maybe when you were a girl who had some sort of business acumen that you might consider a role model, whether it was actually in your life or someone you had read about or heard about.
You would say that my life has been absolutely devoid of role models. And so one of my missions in life has been to be a role model, not just to other women, but be a role model in the community at large, so that the community can see a woman can do this job. A woman can do this job.
That's right.
A woman, believe me, a woman can do this job.
Did your mother work outside
My
the home?
mother worked, but it was like, you know, a lot of mothers worked in those days, which were bookkeeping and not decision-making roles.
What
really.
did she want for you?
She really never expressed that. I think of my parents, my father was kind of the driving force, and my father's view was, well, whatever you want, you can have it, you can do it, it's up to you. And actually, I would say he had a very big effect on me especially in my later life. In the early life, all I really wanted to do is get married and have children. That's what I was about.
You decided on your own then to start your own company. This is 20 years ago in '77.
Right.
How did you do? Who helped you with that? How did that get going?
Well, that was very interesting. I had been a stockbroker for about 5 years, and I could see that there wasn't any room, even though I was sort of let in the door.
With this experimental program to see if women could possibly be
I
stockbrokers.
wasn't going to be like let up the ladder.
Yeah.
And after a while, your learning curve flattens out. So
Yeah.
it was a situation
No place to
where,
go. Is that the glass ceiling we hear about?
The glass ceiling was very low in those days.
Yeah, right.
It was very
Glass
low.
basement.
Yes, you got in, but don't think you're going anywhere here, right? You got in, stay where you are. Kind of that still patronizing. For example, I had been a producing broker in Newport Beach, and I wanted to move to Marin County.
What is a producing broker?
That means a broker that actually has been in the business and has a client
Nice.
and producing,
Right.
you know, sales and commissions. And so I had some kind of track record. By this time now, I wasn't an unknown.
Right.
And I moved to Marin, and the manager of the Marin office, and despite this, said, "Well, I don't know if we're mature enough for a woman broker." I have no idea what that means.
What do you think it meant?
I have no idea.
Maybe that they were forwards thinking enough.
I think that
Or do you think they were just going to be giggling because there was a woman in the office?
No, I think what he was trying to do was discourage me to say, I don't really want to deal with this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a woman doesn't belong in the business. I don't really want to have to think about this, and will you please go away?
Yeah.
But I'm not of the sort that goes away. And if there's one thing I could ever say about that is that, you know, success, a lot of it is just being there and putting and keeping going. It has nothing to do with really brilliance.
Oh, right, absolutely. What is it? A little bit of inspiration and a whole lot of perspiration. You really have to be committed to something and stick at it. It's absolutely true. Who helped you then? How did you get your business going?
Well, I have to, there was a person in the community from that I had known, I guess it was a parent of one of the kids at school. And he was actually Jeff Morstead, who owned Frank Howard Allen. And we went out to lunch one time. We were talking about it. He says, well, why don't you start your own business, and you can come and rent an office from me in my building. And I give him, I would say that was really important. And he probably doesn't realize to this day how important that was, because it was, again, permission.
Right.
Well, yes, you can do this.
That's right.
I have no question that you can do this. Now, so...
It's a big first step,
yeah,
isn't it?
It was. So I decided what I wanted to do, by this time I realized that what I wanted to do was not be in a position where I was selling something, but be in a position where I was advising people and I was guiding people. And I could see that there was a role for people, for me, to be in a place where people could just come in and ask me for advice without having to think I was going to sell them something, and just get my best advice.
Wouldn't this advice be the same for young men as well as young women? Or do you still feel there's a special message that has to go to young women?
First of all, the answer is yes, I would give the same advice to men as to women, as I did with my boys. And to give you an idea, my two boys, one has a degree in economics, the other one has a degree in real estate finance. The one with real estate finance, his profession is fly fishing guide in Alaska.
Oh.
He has a degree in real estate finance.
He's a happy guy.
He's a very happy guy. But he's following his passion, that's fine. He's now going to build a lodge. Part of his passion is he was a fly fishing person for 7 years, and now he wants to have his own lodge and business, and he's got the background now to put that together. And he can do the financial statements, he can do the projections. So that's exactly the concept. You get the tools in your education, and then you do what you want. You use those tools to make your life happen.
And how does it change for women?
And the issue for women, so for women and men, the advice is the same. But for women, it's a separate issue, because the culture at this moment in time is still it's not just not encouraging women. It should be normal for a woman to do this. It shouldn't be it's not a matter of encouraging women because you are a different class of person and you're a different species. And you need to be encouraged because you're just such a lame little thing that if we don't encourage you, you'll never do it. That's kind of where we are still. We're not at the place where this is a level playing field and it's an expectation. It is not a cultural expectation yet that women are going to take care of themselves. And even today, every day in my office, every single day, I get women of all ages coming in who are bringing a lot of baggage about all this. They're not reconciled in their own mind yet, because I think we in our culture see women being empowered financially as a win-lose situation. That is, if I'm empowered financially, I win, you lose. Right?
So my being financially stable means it has to come from somebody else,
yes,
at someone's detriment.
Or if I'm financially stable, you can't take care of me, so therefore what good are you? It's a very difficult
what a nasty
situation.
Thought.
It's very difficult because think about this. One of the complicated things for women who now are very financially successful is, who are their partners going to be? Because while they have built their financial skills, their social acculturation hasn't come along with them. So they're still looking for someone to take care of them at even a higher level. And pretty soon it gets pretty rarefied. You know, if you're making $500,000 a year, you're going to look for a man making $600,000 a year?
How do you want to be remembered? What would you put on your epitaph?
She tried.
And she succeeded.
And she succeeded, yes.
That's very sweet.
And if she tried and succeeded, everybody can succeed, because this is not a person who ever... I was never a person who aspired to be a mogul. I was just a normal person, and it was a series of circumstances. I went to high school, I got married at 18, I had 5 children by age 24, I didn't finish college, I got my first divorce and I didn't have a college degree, and I was like, well, okay, what's this all about? And, you know, I was thinking just like a lot of women think, you get a divorce and somebody will take care of you. And then I had a reality check. So I was returning to college with 5 children, 5 babies. And, you know, going into teaching, thinking I was going to go into teaching. I'm like the personification of the re-entry woman, re-entering every 5 years of my life, virtually.
And you went on to get advanced degrees?
Yes, I went on to get advanced degrees, but I was 45 years old before I went back to Cal to get a master's in it. Well, I was maybe 43, and it took me 7 years to complete it. So kind of the message is that it isn't the perfect woman that is highly well organized, and you know at 10 you're going to be a financial mogul and you're going to control the universe. It's like a normal person through a series of having to face the reality checks that you get, and just putting one step in front of the other gets you there. And you can do it. Any person can do it. And part of what we're all about is understanding that we can do it. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's just work.